Hello and welcome to Spokane Buddhist Temple's virtual service. My name is Amanda Goodwin. I will be your MC, and your doshi for today's service is Minister's Assistant Chad Donahoe. Before we begin, just a few reminders. We are live streaming to Facebook, so if you'd like to remove your picture or name, please take this into account and update it accordingly. And after service today, we will have an opportunity to socialize a bit and talk about the Dharma discussion that we hear. So if you'd like to stay for that, please do so. It's also recommended that you turn your camera off and switch your viewing mode to speaker view. So up in the upper right-hand corner, you should see view and you can choose speaker view. I will share my screen and our opening chant will be the Vandana Tisarana. The Vandana Tisarana can be found on page 5 in your service book.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Kye Butsu. Namo Kye Ho. Namo Kye So. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. Namo Minabutsu. Namo Minabutsu. Namo Minabutsu. Namo.
This morning, we're observing Bodhi Day. Bodhi Day is traditionally observed on December 8th when Prince Siddhartha reached enlightenment and became the Buddha at age of 35. Siddhartha left his home in search of the truth, even though he had every material thing he could desire in life. After diligently practicing all manner of ascetic disciplines, including starving himself to the point of near death, he abandoned the practice. Having been on two sides of extremes, Siddhartha instead turned to the middle ground of meditation. When Siddhartha awakened to the truth and became the Buddha, he showed all sentient beings not only the cessation of suffering, but our own potential Buddha nature that, when awakened and cultivated, will enable us to achieve the same enlightenment. We will now read the Golden Chain number 1 on page 15. I am a link in Amita's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amita's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Please turn to page 12 for the reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed number 1. Together, please. Entrusting the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed through the journey of life with strength and joy. Revering the light of the Buddha, reflecting upon my imperfect self, I shall strive to live a life of gratitude. Following the teachings of the Buddha, discerning the right path, I shall spread the true Dharma. Rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha, respecting and aiding one another, I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. The sutra chant this morning will be the Jusege on page 93.
Gagon Chosegan Hishimujodo Shigafu Manzo Seifujo Shoga Gao Muroko Fui Dai Seishu Fu Sai Shobengu Seifujo Shoga Gashi Jobutsudo Myosho Chojipo Kukyo Mishomo Seifujo Shoga Ryokujin Shonen Joeshu Bongyo Shigu Mujodo Isho Tenminshi Jin Riki Endaiko Fusho Musaido Shoujo Sankumyo Kosai Shuyakunan Kaihichi Eigen Meshi Konmoan Hei Sokusho Akudo Sudatsu Zen Shumon Kosojo Manzo Iyoroji Po Nichigatsu Shujuki Tenko Onfugen Ishu Kai Hozo Koseku Doku Ho Jo Dai Shuchu Seppo Shishiku Kuyo Isai bu gu soku shu toku hon gane shitsujo man toku isan gai o nyobutsu mugechi tsudatsu mi fusho Gangaku eri toshi saisho son shigan yako ka daisen no kando koku shoten ni touchi myo Namandamutu Namandamu 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 Anishikudoku Yodo Seisai Dohotsu Bodaishi Ojo An Rato. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda.
Today's Dharma talk will be given by Reverend Melissa Opal.
All right. Sorry, I just had to find my actual Dharma talk there. Please join me in Gasho. The true Buddha is not a human body. It is enlightenment. A human body must vanish, but the wisdom of enlightenment will exist forever in the truth of the Dharma and in the practice of the Dharma. Namo Mirabutsu. Namo Mirabutsu. Namo Mirabutsu. Namandats, namandats, namandats. Well, that quote was a quote actually from the Buddha. And so, thank you very much for joining us today. We're celebrating Bodhi Day today. This day, it's a special day, of course. It's observed to honor and recognize when Siddhartha Gautama sat under the Bodhi tree. And as the morning star arose, he achieved enlightenment, becoming a Buddha and allowing all sentient beings a path of liberation from the dissonance of this life. Of course, it's not that simple. Siddhartha did not begin at the tree. The tree, the meditation, the enlightenment, it all came 6 years after he could no longer stuff down the deep questions he had about sickness, old age, and death, and no answers had revealed themselves. No, Siddhartha did not begin at the tree. The tree came when he was tired, broken. His journey took him many places and through several practices, all leaving him in the same condition he had arrived in. Actually, physically in a worse condition than he had arrived in. Perhaps he found moments of solace or glimpses of true reality in the nooks and crannies of the religious devotion of others. But he kept moving forward with his questions, his dissatisfaction, that unsettling feeling that there is more out there, more to life, and it could just be grasped, and only if it could just be grasped with the hands. These early practices were merely sand in his grip that dissipated the tighter he squeezed. There are many things we can talk about on Bodhi Day: patience, self-awareness, what it means to sacrifice for the things that are important to us, knowing when to walk away when something is working, what it means to share the truth with others, enlightenment itself, and many, many other moments that can be pulled from the time Siddhartha left home until he first shared the Dharma as Shakyamuni Buddha. It is said the greatest thing the Buddha ever did was to stand and teach. But after achieving enlightenment, he wasn't so sure. He knew the Dharma was complex and would take deep wisdom to understand. But after contemplating, he realized that he would have to offer many different paths for many different levels of understanding. But all of those paths would lead to the same goal: liberation. It is that deep compassion that I want to talk about today, the compassion to understand the human plight and to respond with what he had. The Buddha, as he traveled and preached, unintentionally building a group of followers, did not offer money or material things. He offered truth. He offered questions to make others think, rebuke when appropriate, a second chance when needed. He offered time and his knowledge. These were all gifts that awakened in him when he achieved enlightenment. I think it can be argued as well that his awakening shone a bright light on what was already inside him. It is not that his enlightenment bestowed upon him gifts that were unknown to him, but instead allowed him a different lens in which to view and discuss life. His deep insight was coming in contact with true reality, the causes and conditions which bind us all together. Despite how much we think we understand about interconnectedness, the Buddha's enlightenment revealed to him the deepest levels of interconnection that are beyond our human understanding. To me, one of the ways we can celebrate Bodhi Day is to mark the day as a reminder to reflect deeply on how the teachings speak truth in our lives and how we then in turn respond to others. Before Reverend Castro's retirement, our former supervising minister, I asked him what books were his favorites on Buddhism. He joked that he probably had the largest library of unread books on Buddhism, but one of his favorites was The Ethics of Enlightenment by Ronald Y. Nakuson. In that book, Nakuson states at the end of the chapter on the Buddha's enlightenment, Shakyamuni's life provides the inspiration for Buddhists' ethical conduct. His example of striving, attaining, and implementing wisdom in compassionate acts is the source for the Bodhisattva ideal. The Buddhist ethic of enlightenment is suggested in Shakyamuni's efforts to relieve the sufferings of humanity and in the truth of interdependence. As we reflect on our gratitude for the Buddha and his enlightenment, it becomes difficult to separate that from the Bodhisattva ideal that Nakuson suggests. Mahayana Buddhism, which is what we fall under as Shin Buddhists, reminds us that enlightenment is for all. We do not hoard it and do it for ourselves, but instead share in the same way that the Buddha shares with us today. We agree that enlightenment is in fact a team effort. How can it not be? If we return to the teachings of interconnectedness, we come to understand that our own awakening is tethered to all sentient beings. With the holiday season barreling towards us, and as we are reminded of what is given to us, it is time to think on what we can give to others. How can we live out the Bodhisattva ideal now? And to further complicate the issue, how can I practice this Bodhisattva ideal in the midst of the pandemic? Firstly, it's not our job to proselytize the teachings. That's not what we're talking about. It doesn't mean that we cannot talk about our practices and understanding of the Dharma, how it impacts our lives, but we look to the Buddha as an example. He was different enough from other teachers and gurus of the time that people sought him out for his knowledge. If we are living our life as authentically as possible, we'll notice changes in you. Ask, they are ready. If they never ask, maybe they found their own path, or they may not be ready to hear the Dharma. They may never want to hear the Dharma. When I first started seriously studying Buddhism, many people, including my old boss, knew. It was surprising for friends and coworkers to hear that I was trying organized religion again, given my past feelings. And of course, Buddhism can still be kind of foreign for many people, so there's some curiosity there. After a discussion with my old boss about who knows what we were talking about, she looked at me and said something to the effect of, I think this Buddhism thing is good for you, but you still have a ways to go. Although this might sound kind of harsh, the relationship I had with her told me she was happy for this change in my life, but she was also still dealing with her own stereotypes of what she thought Buddhism was. Maybe she thought I should immediately be calm and thoughtful and slow to anger, or maybe even passive. She didn't know any more than what she had picked up or read about. Her comments were genuine, however. When we wear Buddhism on our sleeve, it can be good and bad, but either way, the people around you will be who they are. If her and I were to have had that conversation today, I would ask her questions and we would talk. She would have opened the door to hearing how it was making me think and feel differently about the world. I've also had a number of positive experiences. That same person still remains in my life and is constantly excited to hear about what I'm doing at the temple when we see each other. Aside from that relationship, the tattoo on my arm, my literal Buddhism on my sleeve, has led to many positive experiences of questions about the practice and to new people checking out the temple. Either way, we let others begin those conversations with us. We do not need to be the catalyst for their curiosity. The Dharma will handle that. So if we're not proselytizing the teachings, then what are we doing to practice this bodhisattva ideal? The first evaluation is to consider what Buddhism has taught us about ourselves. What weaknesses has it magnified, but also what qualities has it highlighted for me? With the pandemic, Becca and I feel an immense amount of gratitude to both be working when many are not. Although we're not busting at the seams with extra cash, it reminds us to give to others. For us, it will mean picking up a few books at Wishing Tree Books in the Perry District. The books will support a dear friend's local business and will also put books in the hands of kids who might not otherwise receive gifts. For those who find themselves with extra time right now, maybe this means writing letters or calling friends, getting in touch with local agencies and seeing how you might help those who are lonely during this time of year without family. What if you're great with tech or social media? Maybe you can reach out to a local small business, nonprofit, or restaurant that is hurting from the pandemic and offer your help in getting them noticed. Or just simply posting more about them on your own social media pages to remind them and remind our friends of their importance in our community. The possibilities are endless and simple. They don't have to be huge and elaborate. Even during this pandemic, because the possibilities are unique to our own skills, experiences, and attributes, that are made evident to us through the teachings, it gives us an idea of what we might do. What makes the Buddha unique is that he said yes to the Dharma as it unfolded in his life in order to help others. He had already received enlightenment. And like the Buddha, your enlightenment is settled as well. So all we can do is continue to say yes to the Dharma. The Buddha worked for others within his skill set, and we can do the same. The great compassion that we have received does not have to stop with us. There are lots of ways to practice that bodhisattva ideal, and not just during the holiday season, but always, every day. Not to benefit ourselves, but to recognize the depth of our gratitude in knowing that liberation will come. I want to leave us with a final quote from Nakason's book. The wisdom to weigh the needs of others and the compassion to respond to these needs constitute the practice of enlightenment. The unprecedented problems of an increasingly complex and technological world in which spiritual values remain suspect for many call for Buddhists to demonstrate in their lives the authenticity of the Buddha's insight. Buddhists should re-examine their spiritual foundations, reevaluating the example and teachings of Sakyamuni. Such an undertaking is encouraged by the Buddha, who always said that he was a guide, not an authority. He expected everyone to test all the teachings, including his own, and to ascertain for themselves their validity. In a continually changing world, Shakyamuni encourages us to discover the relevance of his teachings. And so it seems for us that today, Bodhite, is just the time to do so. Please join me in Gasho. The true Buddha is not a human body. It is enlightenment. A human body must vanish, but the wisdom of enlightenment will exist forever in the truth of the Dharma and in the practice of the Dharma. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, 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 namandats. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. That was a wonderful Dharma talk. We will now read the Threefold Refuge, and that can be found on page 10. Chad will lead us in this.
Difficult is it to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us, with sincerity and true reverence, take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanan.
We thank you for attending today's special Bodhi Day service. As an all-volunteer Sangha, we truly appreciate all donations and efforts. Without all of your continued support, we couldn't do things such as host visiting ministers, assist with continuing education, or provide a place for all to come to listen to the Dharma. Although we cannot meet in person, many volunteers continue to maintain our temple and keep it functioning so that when we are able to meet again, it will be ready. If you would like to donate, you can do so by sending a check to the temple at 927 South Perry Street. You can also feel free to email the temple if you have any further questions on that. We will now have a few short announcements, so I'll allow everyone to be able to unmute themselves. And if you didn't submit your announcements prior to service, you can just type them in the chat box and we'll get to you.
Don't forget that the pledges for membership for the next year are still going on. And so if you have, thanks, Paul. I keep putting in my zip code. I don't know why. I'm so sorry. Please follow what Paul has put, the 99202. But you should have gotten those pledge forms. If you did not get a pledge form and you're interested in becoming a member, you can contact the board. And so you could just send an email to the Spokane Buddhist Temple at gmail.com and they'll get it to the right person to get you the info for that. Otherwise, I think that's, and then don't forget, we're also doing the traditional mochi. So that's the rice mochi for New Year's Day that, you know, people put in like the soup and maybe put in the obutsudan. And so we're just doing that by donation, but do let us know right away if you are interested in getting it, because we're only making enough to cover what people have asked for ahead of time.
In place of Oshoka, we will now have a few moments of quiet sitting to think on the Buddha and to express our gratitude for the teachings. Remember to hang on afterwards if you'd like to socialize and discuss Melissa's Dharma discussion today. Thank you.
And that now concludes our Bodhi Day service. Thank you for joining. And again, as Amanda said, please hang on for those who would like to hang out and talk.